I'm really happy to be here to take part in the Healthy Living lecture series because Parks and Recreation at its essence is exactly that, trying to facilitate healthy living. And we have taken steps lately in our department to make it much more easy and much more accessible for you to exercise, be healthier, and get all of that information truly at your fingertips. So tonight we're going to be talking about a few different things, and I always like to cover those at the beginning. We're going to kind of give you an overview of Parks and Recreation, what the department looks like. We're going to be talking about FLIP, the Fairbanks Loves Its Parks new campaign and initiative that we just started a few weeks ago. We're also going to be talking about our brand new summer activity guide filled with all kinds of activities, and also talking about general statistics and facts about healthy living in both the Fairbanks North Star Borough and in Alaska in general. So a little bit about me, stuff that was already covered a bit in my introduction. I do have about 20 years of management and leadership experience. I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. After that, they paid for me to go to college, where I got my bachelor's degree in recreation administration. I've done Parks and Recreation administration in various forms in a variety of different cities, in Valdez, Alaska being one of them, Illinois, Alaska, Missouri, and Colorado, all in the last about 18 years. As was mentioned, I also just recently got my master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology, which if you've never heard of that degree, it's basically the psychology of what makes people work together and act well, and why they don't act well in groups, and more importantly, how to use psychological techniques to make them do it better, more efficiently, happier. That's what I focus on, is on positive psychology, which basically says we don't look at what's wrong with you and try and fix it. We look at what's right with you and try and enhance it. That is the essence of positive psychology. But that is basically a lot of the other stuff. Stage actor. I've been in several productions here at Fairbanks Drama Association. Ukulele player, balloon animal artist, professional clown, and a public speaker. Oh, and an Elvis impersonator as well. Sorry, I can't forget that. So, Parks and Recreation's mission, and this is a fairly new mission, and actually it's a brand new logo as well. So let me describe the logo to begin with. As you see, what we've done is we combined the rays of the sun with the snowflake, because a lot of times we only talk about what we do in the summertime, all these great trails that everybody goes hiking on and all the camping that goes on and all that, but we fail to realize that for a good portion of the year it's actually wintertime. So this is talking about the duality of our department. We are both for summer and winter. We cleaned it up. If anybody saw the old logo, and I couldn't even bring myself to put it up, it was an old pixelated one that had little stick figures, and it was just not very attractive. But our new logo and our new mission statement. This was a collaborative effort from the Parks and Recreation Department. We invited all of the staff that wanted to take part in a remissioning project. We spent an entire afternoon breaking out into different groups, coming up with different ideas, bringing them together, voting on them. We did an online vote of all of the staff then to pick which one they liked, and this is what they came up with. The Fairbanks North Star Borough Parks and Recreation Department preserves and creates an inclusive community culture by providing places and programs designed to enrich the quality of life. Very simple, very easy to understand. We're all about trying to enrich the quality of life. So with that, let's get into the meat of our presentation. So the Parks and Recreation Department at a glance. Quite a few facts that we have here: 76 full-time employees, a $10 million budget, 5 divisions. We have the administrative division, which is basically me and just the administrative secretary staff, Pioneer Park, the recreation division, the park maintenance division, and the Carlson Center division. Our 3 swimming pools, the 44-acre Pioneer Park. We have 103 park properties. That's not necessarily developed parks. That's park properties that we manage. Some of them are passively managed, some are actively managed, but 103 park properties. But that accounts for 25 playgrounds within those, 6,000 acres of parkland that we manage just within the Fairbanks Borough Park system. Over 2,000 miles of trail, over 1,000 miles of trail, and obviously our 5 large recreation areas. Chena Lake and Tanana Lakes are the ones that everybody most knows about, but we also have Birch Hill that is also one of our recreation areas, and then Iceberg and Skyline Skyridge Trail recreation areas, which those are fairly new. Iceberg is up off of Rosie Creek Road, up off of Chena Ridge Road, that area. And then the Skyline Skyridge is the one that everybody just heard about in the news that got all the trail damage over Memorial Day weekend. It's up off of Skyline Road Ridge. Good story, happy ending. If you didn't hear on Charlie O'Toole, the truck was removed, and the community groups are all making efforts towards repairing and getting everything up and running, so people will hopefully be able to use that trail by the end of the summer. So that's just a few quick things about our department. So here's an interesting fact. In 2010, the Alaska Department Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System did a study, and they determined, and people reported, that 1 in 5 Alaskans, not Americans, just Alaskans, reported that they did no, not a little bit, not just some, no physical activity in their leisure time. 20% of Alaskans. Now, that's a horrible statistic, right? I don't want you to feel bad about us. We're actually doing way better than the national average, which is 25%. 1 in 4 people across the country in that same time period reported that they did no physical activity. So hey, we're a whole 5% better than the rest of the country in not doing anything. Yay us, I guess. So we want to change that, and we wanted to also talk about how do we define being active. And I came up with this acronym that I got the source from the Department of Health and Social Services website, but I changed it around to come up with FABs. You got to remember the different types of physical activity that you want to engage in. Flexibility exercises, aerobic activity, balance exercises, bone exercises, and strength exercises. Now, some of those can be the same thing. Obviously, balance and flexibility exercise can be achieved with things like yoga or Tai Chi, stuff like that. Aerobic and bone exercises, those can be achieved through cardiovascular jumping around. Bone exercises are things that impact your bones to cause them to stay strong. Obviously, strength and bone exercises, same thing. So you can combine those, but those are the 5 different types of exercises that we're talking about when we're wanting people to stay active. And what a lot of people do is they forget and they focus on one. So they're like, well, yeah, but I do yoga 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Well, sure, yoga's great because that's taking care of your flexibility and your balance and maybe somewhat your aerobic, but you're not necessarily taking care of everything. So take an inventory of what it is that you're doing and make sure that you're being well-rounded. Now, there are some yogic practices that you can get almost dang near all of those. And so take a look at and make sure that it's well-rounded. All right, another little fun fact. Parks and Recreation, we figured out that adults who exercise outdoors stay active at least 30 minutes longer per week than those who exercise indoors. Now, we have both indoor and outdoor walking options, so whatever you choose, get out there and get active. Now, you're seeing this Did You Know brand with our Flip logo, which we're getting ready to talk about, and our new sign. If anybody has come to any of the Parks and Rec facilities lately, you're going to start seeing these types of signs popping up about the different variety of facilities. So if you come to the ice arena, we're going to have statistics like, did you know that if you engage in 45 minutes of hockey 3 times a week, and you do that 3 times a week over the course of a year, that will burn the equivalent of 30 pounds of fat. Not the equivalent energy where you could lose 30 pounds. You will have burned the caloric energy value of 30 pounds of fat just by engaging in hockey. It could be things about Pioneer Park. If you go out to Pioneer Park, one of my very favorite statistics is, did you know that the Pioneer Park choo-choo, my very favorite part of the park, the choo-choo, goes around and around just in the summertime, right? Travels 3,900 miles. That's the same distance between Fairbanks and New York City, just in one summer. So why are all of these little facts important? Well, that's because I need to ask if you're flipping out yet. Fairbanks loves its parks. Is anybody here in the audience already a member of Flip by a show of hands? I know there's a few out there because I've got Parks and Rec commissioners out in the audience, and you better be raising your hands. But Flip stands for Fairbanks Loves Its Parks. We launched it on Memorial Day weekend, and we did it at Pioneer Park during the 50th anniversary celebration of the park opening. And day one, we got over 240 people signing up for our program. What is the program? Well, we've got what Flip is. It is an educational and awareness campaign designed to help people in the Fairbanks community not just answer why you like parks and recreation on the surface, but able to answer the deeper questions. So I like to use the Family Feud analogy. Everybody watches the game Family Feud, or at least you've seen it at one point in your life, whether it was Richard Dawson or Steve Harvey, whoever, or anybody in between. If I were to go out and ask 100 people in the Fairbanks community, do you like parks and recreation? I'm guessing 97 out of 100, because we all know there's those 3 people out there that are going to say, 97 out of 100 are going to say, yeah, I love parks and recreation. The problem is when you ask that follow-up question, which I think is very important, and say, great, why? You stump them, right? Think to yourself, why do you, I'm assuming, if you like parks and recreation, answer the why question. And a lot of times we struggle, well, because I like using the pool, or I like going out and walking at the Big Dipper, or I like renting a pavilion every year for a family reunion. And those are all great why reasons, but those are what I call the surface reasons. That's the benefit, that's the exchange, that's just the transactional benefit that we get. You give us money, we let you use one of the public shelters, you give us a daily fee, you get to come in and swim in the pool. It's very transactional. And so what we're hoping is to get to that deeper meaning of why you like parks and recreation. So that's really what the entire Flip campaign is about, is trying to answer the why. So why should you Flip? Well, there's a few benefits to being a member of Flip. First of all, if you join, you're going to get a really cool window cling that looks just like that pretty logo right there. It's not that big, because that would be a really big window. It's only about 3 inches. But if you sign up, you get a window cling. But that's only, again, that's the thing that you get. That's the transactional. The next thing that you get, and it's going to be, our first edition goes out tomorrow, is our monthly newsletter. So we want to be able to get out information to the public about all of the great activities that we've got going on in the community. Everything from all of the hours and schedule of the pools, and when lap swims are and open swims, things like that, when things are going to be open and shut down for our maintenance schedule, those kind of basic things. But also, we want to let people know about some of the special events that are going on. Hey, what deadlines are coming up in July that we need to know about? Well, if you pay attention to our summer activity guide, which we're going to talk about here in a moment, you're going to know that we have summer camps going on. We're brand new starting some day camps. So we've got registration. Those day camps are towards the end of July. In that Flip newsletter, we're giving people the information, hey, make sure you come and check out those, make sure you don't forget that deadline and check out those activities. We're also highlighting different activities that are going on throughout that upcoming month. So again, this is the end of June. This is the July newsletter. So we're talking about all the great things that are going on in July. Did you know that July is Parks and Recreation Month around the country? Did anybody know that, actually? Marianne? What? You're the Parks and Recreation queen. I'm not putting you on the spot. I apologize. Nationally, the National Recreation and Park Association, which is kind of my overseeing body, my governing body, they help set our national best practices. Nationally, the President and Congress have determined that July is Parks and Recreation Month. And so the theme in the upcoming month is Get Your Play On. So we challenge everybody to get out and get their play on, however that is. And we've got all kinds of great activities that are planned, some of which I will give you an inkling of here when we start talking about the activity guide. So who can flip? Anybody. It's open to anybody. One person can join for the whole family. You can have everybody join if you want. Because here's the other, in addition to the newsletter, the other benefits and why you join Flip, you're going to have two other very distinct benefits that I hope a lot of people take advantage of. One is our Flip VIP, and that's Flip VIP. So, upcoming 4th of July, if you are already a member of Flip, and you get an email from us and you happen to remember to print out the email or bring an e-version, for the first, I think we've got it for the first 25 people that show up, you're going to get special seating for the military appreciation band that plays there at Pioneer Park. Now, we can't offer every Flip member because we've only been doing this, like I said, since Memorial Day, and we already have well over 300 members that have already joined Flip. So we do have to have it limited, but that's why we're also going to be having some members events. Our first one is going to be planned for in August. I can't tell you exactly what the member event is because I'm not quite sure. We're still putting that together, but we think that it's going to be a free concert at Tanana Lakes. So you're going to be able to come as a member of Flip, but it's not to exclude anybody. So as a member of Flip, you're going to be able to bring any non-member of Flip that you want. Hopefully you're going to talk to them and talk them into joining Flip. This isn't a pyramid scheme. You get no benefit for talking them into joining Flip. But we hope that you say, hey, this is something cool that they're doing. It's a free concert out at the park. Ultimately, it's really open to the public, but we want people to be able to get this information on a good, regular, consistent, high-quality basis. So that's the newsletter, that's the Flip VIP, that's the member events. It's open to anybody, and it's very easy to flip. So how do you flip? Well, you have to watch my little circuit thing. There we go. You have to go to www.fnsb. Oh, there we go. You got to go to www.fnsb.us. If you go to that, both on mobile devices now, on our Borough website, I'm not quite sure that we're technologically advanced where it may come up on a really, really small mobile screen. I don't think it's scaled properly. I'm not a technical IT person, so I don't know the words for it. But I would recommend waiting until you get home because there's going to be information. But here's the basic process to join Flip. All we need is your name and email address. That's it. No birthdays, no social security numbers, no security questions, none of that. Just your name, your email address. You hit submit, and then you're going to get an email. So you have to check your spam folder. We have to tell people this because this is done through MailChimp, and some people have very aggressive spam folders, and you should. Don't lessen your spam folder, but we tell people, check your spam folder. Or if you have like Google Gmail, make sure you look at your promotions tab. A lot of times it comes up under the promotions tab. But when you go, you're going to put your name, your email, hit submit. You're going to look in your email inbox. You have to confirm and make sure that you are not a robot or a spam bot or any of these other weird bots that apparently infect computers. Once you've confirmed, then you're on, you're in, and if you join after we send out the newsletter, we'll be sending those out individually to everybody that signs up after, up until the next newsletter. So you won't have missed out if you miss out on the distribution tomorrow. You'll still be able to get that. So, more activities at your fingertips. Remember, this is about community help. But before we go, do we have any questions before? This is Mary Ann.
You didn't say it's free.
Oh, I apologize. It is free. Joining Flip is free. Yes, it costs nothing. And because it costs nothing, we're trying to keep our costs low. So that's why you get that high quality window cling and that's this big and not that big as big as I showed you. But what our hope is that this winds up being a self-sustaining thing because really we're adding value to our department, and the more people that we have using our department, the more people that are educated about our department, the more people we have that love our department. And remember, this is all about Fairbanks loving its parks. So, summer activity guide. Has anybody seen this yet? Anybody heard of it yet? You've seen it? Not that guide, this is the one that's up here. So this is our brand new online e-version. The reason that nobody can hold it up is there's only about 50 copies and they're tightly controlled, like the nuclear codes. Seriously, you can get them at the library because we want to be green. We don't want to be creating a lot of paper, and we know what happens if we were to do a big post office box mailing. Yeah, they all get thrown away, just like the telephone books that just stack up every time somebody decides to send those out. So we know that's not effective. So we're using an online e-platform for our newsletter. So if you do not have internet access, or if you have access, a hindrance that does not allow for fast upload, so if you're like on dial-up or anything like that, you can go to any of the public libraries, and they have reference copies. They have several reference copies that you can look at right there, and then you can use their computers and get on there as well. The mayor's office and a couple of other of the counters down at the Borough building have some copies. Up at our office at the Big Dipper Ice Arena, we have a few copies if you truly do need to look at a physical copy. But we do want it to be online. So it's 46 pages of amazing stuff. But before we get to that, did you know, another one of these facts, one of the top 5 causes of death, of the top 5 causes of death in Alaska, only one is not related to healthy lifestyles. And the reason that I put that little graphic up there is that the one is accidental death. That's not really caused by healthy lifestyles, but the top 5 are cancer, heart disease, accidental death, respiratory disease, and stroke, in that order. So top one is cancer, bottom one is stroke in the top 5. All of those other 4, cancer, heart disease, respiratory disease, and stroke, can be ameliorated or even sometimes solved through physical activity. My story, disc golf saved my life. Anybody here ever played disc golf? It's not just a hippie sport. Trust me, disc golf saved my life. 10 years ago, I was working in Missouri, and I did one of those free health fairs that the city was offering. And my wife talked me into going. You need to go and get your blood pressure checked. And they had to check my blood pressure 3 times on 3 different machines because something wasn't working on it right. If anybody's ever encountered that, there was nothing wrong. My blood pressure was really bad. I had fasted the night before, and then I left the next day for a business trip. And I got a call. Mr. Bork, we need you to come in and see your primary doctor as soon as you can. And I explained that I was on a trip, and they said, well, your test results came back and we have some concerns. We need you to come into the hospital as soon as you possibly can. And it went from doctor to hospital, and I was getting a little scared because I was in St. Louis and not in Fairbanks, in Missouri at the time. And they said, no, we need you to come in as soon as possible, or you need to not eat anything other than clear liquids and watch your sugar intake. Well, come to find out that my fasting blood sugar was near 600, which for anybody that has diabetes or pre-diabetic or has to watch blood sugar, that's not good. It's supposed to be less than 100 ideally for fasting blood sugar, around 90 ideally. So my blood sugar was uncontrolled. They didn't actually know why I wasn't dead. To be quite honest. I weighed about 450 pounds. That's about 200 pounds less than what I am standing in front of you right now. Why? Disc golf. I was working in Missouri, and a guy came to me and said, hey, I want to build a disc golf course in your park. Now, I knew nothing about it other than the stuff that you hear in the articles. It just draws people doing negative behavior, drinking, smoking dope, partying out on public land, leaving garbage everywhere. So right away, I had not a whole lot of enthusiasm, and he came in and he explained what he wanted to do. And he had obviously done this before. He had this really wonderful figure 8 designed disc golf course, which is kind of a standard that you're trying to shoot for. We had the land for it. So I went out and I started walking that disc golf course with this guy. This was while I was still on insulin. I was having to jab myself twice a day with insulin and taking my blood sugar 4 or 5 times a day to begin with. I was on 6 different medications to lower my triglycerides and drop my cholesterols and all of that. And I started walking this disc golf course, and it was hiking at that point. It was really rough. There was nothing cut out. And I got into enjoying disc golf as a design feature, and then I started playing, because you had to go out and see what some of these other courses were like, so I started playing, and essentially I tricked myself into living, because I started walking. Anybody here by a show of hand plays disc golf or has played disc golf? Anybody that goes a full 18 holes, depending on the size of the course, it can be anywhere from a couple of miles up to 6, 7, 8 miles. If you're a really bad disc golfer and you lose your disc in the trees a lot like I am, it could be as much as 12. I thought sometimes even 20 miles in a day. But what wound up happening is I started getting healthier, and I didn't hurt when I was out playing, and my back didn't hurt as much, and the weight started coming off. And then amazingly, I go to my doctor's appointment, and they said, Mr. Bork, here, have a pill now. You don't need to be on insulin. But it was still a big pill, and there were several of them that I had to take a day. But then again, as things started coming off and I started getting healthier, I kept tricking myself now into these new different ways to exercise. Now, I had been a Parks and Recreation guy. You would think that I would know how to recreate, but I had forgotten. I know, silly, right? But we are the victims of our own demise. We spend so much time trying to facilitate other people having a good time. A lot of times we tend to neglect ourselves. You hear that with a lot of different professions. Doctors are some of the most unhealthy eating people, depending on who you talk to. I've seen doctors just pull down a 12-piece bucket of chicken in front of me and then light up a cigarette and then go and do open heart surgery. Not really, I'm making that up. I'm sure there's some doctor in the South that's probably done that, though. Maybe eating the bucket of chicken while doing open heart surgery. I don't know. But the overall point is laughter, doing this disc golf and learning now other healthy things like anybody who's heard of laughter yoga. When is the date on that, Linda? It's the very last healthy living. It's the very last one. August the 8th, I think that sounds right. That's another healthy pursuit of mine that I've gotten involved in is laughter yoga. And so that is another healthy choice. So come to the very last Healthy Living series. There's my shameless plug. I apologize. Getting back into the choices, if you remember a couple of slides back, we were talking about our program guide. So just a couple of things. I'm not going to go through the whole 46 pages because I want you all to go to www.fnsb.us. If you want to do the backslashes, it's /PR, and then that'll take you to the Parks and Rec page. But we've got, I went too far. As I said, get your play on is the national July is Parks and Recreation Month slogan. So we're going to be doing some different things. Now, this is very small. I didn't expect that you could read this. But every Tuesday in the month of July, we're doing a trail walk, a different trail. We're going to have our trails coordinator, Bryant Wright, leading trail walks out on different ones. We just did one last week. The next one is the Mike Agbaba bike path, and then that's on July 3rd. And then the Black Baron Trail, and then after that, the River Loop Trail, the After Hours Trail, and the East Upland Trail. So all in the month of July, led trail walks, absolutely free. It's not an interpreted walk. We're not acting as a tour guide. If you look on your left, you're going to see the mighty spruce. If you look at, no, it's not that. We're just trying to expose people to getting out onto the trails. If you also look, we have some parks outreach. Something that's always bothered me is that the Fairbanks North Star Borough is more than just Fairbanks and North Pole. And through budget cuts, we've had to cut out a lot of our services to communities like Two Rivers and Salcha and Esther and some of these others, and they've had to become more independent. So I wanted, as we've developed the ability to have programs, to offer these different park outreach. So again, you can't really see, but in the month of July, we're going to be every Wednesday out at a different park. Every Thursday in July, I don't think I put it up here, nope, but every Thursday in July, does everybody know where Fun Time Park is? Fun Time Park is on College Road. More importantly, does everybody know where Hot Licks is? Okay, Hot Licks is on College Road in Funtime Park, where all the fitness and playground stuff is right behind the ice cream shop. But in honor of July being Parks and Recreation Month, we're doing some community socials every July from 3 to 6 at Funtime Park. You come out, we're going to have arts and crafts, kids games, activities, and you're going to get a $1 coin, wooden coin, to take over to Hot Licks. So instead of a $3 scoop ice cream, you can get it for $2. And Hot Licks is sponsoring that. And that's every month or every week in July. Absolutely free, other than if you want the ice cream, you got to spend your own $2. We could only get as much of a discount as we could. Some of the other fun summer activities, though, for all ages. A roll, run, and row. Has anybody heard of our winter triathlon series that we did this past winter? We did a series of triathlons, one at Birch Hill, one at Chena Lake, one at Tanana Lakes. That was based on a series that was very popular the winter before. This is now our summer version of a triathlon. And it's a roll, run, and row. And we actually have decided that we're going to change the name of it, but we had already put this out. So next year, it may get changed this year, but essentially it's a row, run, row, roll. Because you're going to start on the lake shore, you're going to paddle out to an island, have to run around the island, get back into another paddle craft, get back onto shore, put on your shoes, and finish it off with a run. Fun, right? Open to all ages, all ability levels. This is a Parks and Recreation event. It's absolutely free to take part. You don't need to have any skill or ability level. We've had families from grandkids, parents, and grandparents all on the same relay team, just sharing duties. It's meant to be a fun race to get you out into our parks using our parks. So more information, again, you can go out to our summer activity guide, www.fnsb.us. Another one, this page was really bad to read, but again, this is our Summer Trails Challenge. Did anybody hear about our Winter Trails Challenge? No, Winter Trails Challenge? Marianne, I know you did. Winter Trails Challenge, and again, the reason that I don't, a lot of people haven't heard about this is I have very little programming staff and no advertising staff, so a lot of these are through word of mouth. But we started this past winter a Winter Trails Challenge. If you are familiar with the photo application Instagram, that's where you can hashtag things. If you were to go out and these, you can't see it, but these list out 10 different trails that are available and you can go out and hike on. Halfway through the trail, there's a sign, and the sign looks similar to this actually overall thing, but it has a spot where it's got a QR code and the hashtag. So you are supposed to take a selfie by the sign, post it on Instagram. If you do all 10 trails, you are entered in for a prize. REI has been very supportive of this event, and the Winter Trails Challenge, they gave away several $100s worth of prizes to people that participated in and got to all 10 trails. Summertime, 10 different trails, but it goes all summer long, I think all the way through to September, to get out there and hit all 10 trails. So, in conclusion, we are wrapping up a little bit early because I wanted to have plenty of time for questions and answers about anything that you can think of Parks and Rec related. The overall message that I want everybody to take away with them, it doesn't matter if it's summertime or wintertime, doesn't matter if it's indoors or outdoors, doesn't matter if it's natural or man-made, doesn't matter, I want to make sure, yeah, they're okay, it's keeping up with me, if it's active or low impact. The question you have to ask yourself is, how do you flip? So we want everybody to join Flip. And again, that website is www.fnsb.us because we want everybody to remember, what does that stand for? Fairbanks loves its parks. And that's the essence of the campaign. It's emails, it's VIP events, it's all of that. But really, it's trying to build a better relationship between me, my 76 full-time employees, and all of the hard work, all of the 103 facilities, 25 playgrounds, Pioneer Park, pools, Big Dipper Ice Arena, all of these things that everybody uses on a regular basis. We want to build a better relationship between my department and you all, the folks who use, direct, and should be providing guidance for what goes on. How do we best do that? By providing you better information about what it is that we do. So we're more than just offering fun activities, we're offering experiences. We're offering community health, and we're trying to make it more at your fingertips. That's our goal, community health at your fingertips. Why? That's how we are going to get people so that we can take that 20% of people who say that, what is it? They spend no time in physical activity in their leisure time, no time, zero. I want to get that 20%. The state goal for healthy living, I believe, is 10%, is to get that number to 10%. That's a hard thing to do. But is it achievable? Sure. It should be simple. It should be easy. If you go out and walk at the Big Dipper, if you go out and walk on one of our trails, if you go out and walk on the bike path system or use the bike path system for biking. In the wintertime, if you use that bike path system for fat biking or skiing or ski joring, whether you go out and use the cross-country trails for cross-country running or cross-country skiing, whether you come to the pool to just splash around or whether you come for aquasize or you just come to rest your sore muscles. Whether you come to the ice arena because you're watching hockey or you're playing hockey or you're competing in hockey, all of you are important. We have over 1.3 million people that visit our Parks and Rec system throughout the course of the year. 1.3 million people, that's a huge number. That means theoretically, if you do the gross math or the icky math, the fuzzy math, that every man, woman, and child in the borough, if you use the 100,000 number, visits us at least 13 times. Now, we know that not everybody's visiting us 13 times. They're not visiting us necessarily everybody one time, but 1.3 million people using our facilities. Just to give you a fun, for example, comparison, I find all of these little factoids that stick in my mind. Graceland, everybody know Graceland, where Elvis lived, and he is buried in Graceland too, right? Where the grave is misspelled, so it's not really him, I think is the popular conspiracy. But who you would think, I mean, everybody loves Elvis, right? They only get 600,000 people a year through Graceland. Less than 600,000 a year through Graceland. So we're twice as popular as Graceland. I'm going to get that on my we're more than twice as popular as Graceland. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me? Yes, thank you.
Will there be ice skating on the 10 and the lakes this year?
Yes. Did you take part this past year? Yeah, one of the very exciting, who here has been to Tanana Lakes? I didn't have enough time to talk about all the individual parks, but Tanana Lakes is one of those true success stories, yes. We're already making plans, they're drawing out maps already on how cool they want the loopity-loop trails to be this year. For those of you not familiar with it, if you haven't used it in the wintertime, we actually went out at each snowfall after the lake froze, trying to keep the ice as clear as possible. We went out with some trucks, kept it nice and wide, and then at one point we were able to bring the Zambonis out and actually resurface the whole loop. So we had a half-mile loop that went out from the parking lot, and then we wound up having, which was supposed to be just a 1-mile loop, but we got confused on communication, wound up with almost a 2-mile loop that went around the rest of the lake. Thankfully, it had a connector so you could cut it in half. Very heavily used. We actually are finalizing our numbers, and it's well over 100,000 people just in the months of, I think, from December to February is what our estimate is. And it's a rough estimate because up till just very recently, we haven't had accurate counters. It's been those little pneumatic counters, and we all know how well those work in the wintertime. They pretty much don't. They get buried in ice and snow. So it's an estimate, but in long answer, we have That and so much more planned for Tanana Lakes. We have more fish being stocked this year. We ran out, I know it sounds funny, but we ran out of fish early. The lake got fished out early because it was so popular. We have people going out there and doing tours, and then a lot of recreational people out there fishing. So I think it was about February, people started reporting that nobody was catching any more decent fish, so we basically ran out of fish. So we're getting more fish stocked. We're getting a double stocking this year. So pre-winter, hopefully that'll increase our ice fishing. So we'll have our ice fishing huts out there. We're planning on more wintertime activities out there, big parties and special events, community events. So yes, that and so much more. Did you enjoy what you experienced out there?
Absolutely.
All right, good. Other questions?
Well, I'm gonna ask one.
I was going to say, come on, everybody, you got to have more questions. I finished early because Linda said there's always questions.
But we covered this beforehand, but I'm gonna ask it again.
Yes.
So that list that has like the pictures for the summer trails, whatever.
Oh, yes.
Okay, how do you know where those trails are?
In our summer activity guide.
It will be in.
Yes, so actually, and again, it was a really poor, you couldn't really...
It had the names, but I didn't know if it had the location.
No, on the other side of the page, there's a map.
Okay.
And if you don't know, I mean, some of them will even tell you that, like it says at Esterdome Road, or like the Upland Trail at Eisberg Recreation Area, River Loop Trail at Chena Lakes. Beyond that, it's meant to be a little bit challenging. 'Cause, I mean, we don't want people. I mean, otherwise we'll just drive you over to the sign and just say, all right, Linda, stand there. We'll pretend you took a selfie, and we'll post it ourselves on your behalf. That would be much easier, wouldn't it?
What about
But-
the calendar, Mike? Does that, the calendar mentions the parks, but, and where does it tell you where those parks are?
Which it's in there. You just again you can't really read it. So it says like Parks Outreach is going to be at South Fairbanks Park. It's going to be at Goldstream Park. It's going to be at North Pole Park.
Okay.
And then in that 46-page program guide, there are other park maps showing you maps of Tanana Lakes, our overall park maps. So it's more than just what activities are going on. We have our senior activities mapped out, our adaptive activities for those with mobility and cognitive and developmental issues. So there's all, literally I showed you 4 pages or 5 pages of a nearly 50-page document. So I really wanted to just tease you and make you say, I have to go and see more. And go online to www.fnsb.us. I hope to say that enough times to get it where it's almost like a jingle in your head. We had another, yes, sir.
Yeah, does your Economic Development Council, do they still promote parks and quality of life issues in tracking in their webpages? I haven't looked at it for a long time.
Yes. Yes, they do, and we're giving them even better language in which to do so through our Did You Know campaign. So in the Parks and Recreation field, there's a brilliant researcher by the name of Dr. John Crompton. He has written a lot of textbooks, and he is known as basically an expert on Parks and Recreation statistics. And he came up with, you're famous when they name a principle or a theorem or something. So this is Crompton's proximate principle, and basically it has been theorized, he theorized, and then it's been proven over decades that property, and you guys have heard a version of this, but now you know that it's called Crompton's proximate principle, but properties that are adjacent or proximate to park properties have a higher property value than properties that are not. Now, depending on where you live can vary greatly on the property values, but it can be anywhere. Fairbanks, it's estimated anywhere from 14 to 20% boost if you're near a park property. And that's actually not a Fairbanks, sorry, that's a state of Alaska statistic. Other places it's as low as 5% boost, all the way up to 30 to 40%, especially if they're large, well-established historical parks, things like that. So proximate principle, it bears out, and that is something that I try and get across. Just like when developers are coming into town, I want to have a conversation of them. It's great. You're putting in a lot of pretty streets and curbs and gutters and sewer lines and water and telephone and fiber optic. Where's the parks in your neighborhood? And why are you not putting just as much money aside to build parks in new neighborhood developments? And that's just a conversation that we haven't had in the past. So those are conversations that we want, because why? Well, it's going to be a lot more attractive to homeowners, and we try and tell them. Proximate principle says your property values are going to be more if you put a park here, and people are going to want to live. When people are looking to move to a community, what are they typically looking at? They're not looking necessarily at where the grocery stores or the post office is. They're looking at where the schools are, where the parks are, and where the hospital is. Typically are the top three. But usually schools and parks are kind of competing for top. Why? Because people want to be next to pretty things, right? We all want to be next to pretty things, and we create a lot of pretty things. So proximate principle, John Crompton. Did that answer?
Yeah, I think you did.
All right, sorry, long answer. Mary Ann?
Trails too.
Oh, well, park properties. That's why I said that's true for trails. That's true for developed, like just green belts that are just allowed to be natural or undeveloped, passive recreation areas, all the way to parks with playgrounds in them. That's why I use that general park properties. It doesn't just have to be parks and playgrounds. Yes?
You mentioned a walking trail at Big Dipper.
Yes.
Is that inside, outside?
Inside. And it wasn't designed to be a walking trail, but that's like saying the Dipper was not designed to be an ice arena. It was an airplane hangar in Tanacross that Hezray decided to steal. But that's a whole other story of Parks and Recreation, available in Hezray's book. I'm not his agent, but he did write a book about the whole how the Big Dipper got to be where the Big Dipper is. But yes, the mezzanine level where the box seats, the seat, those is open nearly 7 days a week, 365. I mean, we're shut down for maintenance. We're shut down during games. But basically, when the building is open, we have people walking. Our low count number, just kind of checking on like an hour, one hour once a week. We have anywhere from 200 to 300 people per day come through the Big Dipper. Now, people don't see 200 to 300 people walking at the same time, but that's because they started coming in at 5 in the morning and they're coming in till 9 o'clock at night. And when there's 10 or 20 people coming in on every hour that we're open, yeah, that adds up. And so 200 to 300 people on a low day, when it's really, really cold in the wintertime or really, really hot in the summertime, man, that air-conditioned ice arena feels really good. Unfortunately, we are getting ready for our shutdown, so it's going to be unavailable for walking. But typically, yes, we have the Dipper open for walking as almost the whole time the building's open. Well, and then, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of walking outside, but I had mentioned the Big Dipper walking specifically. Oh, we've got the outside track at behind the Big Dipper. And then there's bike path connectors that go right from the Dipper all the way out to all the South Davis Loop and all the way down. And that's all new as well, part of development. So he had his hand. Okay, all right.
I had a lovely walk the other day on the track.
Yeah.
Outside the Dipper, so we could get there. It's really nice. Don't go in.
No, yeah, don't go in. In fact, that should be another slogan: "Stay outside, get out." Yes, sir.
Well, there's more than the borough. There's other federal agencies. And I fought with the Corps of Engineers for 2 years to take 3 acres of wetlands and make them into a dog park, a park, and a community garden for development. But here I spent all this time and effort, and one agency says you can't do it.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it natural. We don't want to lose any wetlands. But
Oh, yeah,
it's
no.
not usable. It's
And-
not
and-
usable.
And we run into those same restrictions as well. I mean, Tanana Lakes, a lot of that, we had to do so much wetland mitigation, where we actually either had to outright give cash to them to pay them for destroying wetland, or we had to take and develop another area to do wetland preservation in there. And there's some areas where we tried to go, especially when you start dealing with private and trusts and things like that. They don't want to develop anything. They want it to stay natural.
You know, the argument that won, that I think the reason I got it is, I said the dog park, I said if everybody took their dog to the dog park twice a day, the air pollution in Fairbanks.
I think I had heard that, yes. Did you have something, sir?
You probably already have 6,000 acres, you probably already have some PDF downloads, short, long versions of various large properties.
Yes.
Okay, and I guess I could find them on the site. Also, do you have maybe KML files that is GPS track files that you can download with waypoints of the various that you can download or your GPS and follow the trails?
Unfortunately, we're not that technological yet, but we're working towards that. We have some of them. And so that was two questions. Let me answer the first one. Yes, we do have all of that GPS. It's not available online. And that kind of leads into the reason for the second answer of we do have some things waypointed, but it's not public yet. A lot of the Borough Park trails, and you remember we have over 1,000 miles of trail, a big chunk, and I don't have the percentage off of my mind right now, are not 100% owned by the borough. So we have big chunks that are on borough property or that we have management authority are, but then you'll have a little corner that goes into somebody's private land or a little loop that loop-de-loops around somebody's mining property or something like that. Because of legal restrictions, we can't publicize public maps that have private property alley that we don't have actual permission for, if that makes sense. Yeah, so we're fighting the challenge. We've started waypointing. We have the technology to start waypointing the trails. We just don't have the ability yet to publicize those and allow the public to have that on the public. But I do believe call Bryant Wright or B Wright, BWRIGHT. He's our trails coordinator. This issue just came up recently, and he had been talking with our legal department and kind of reviving this again because it's something that I think is critical. I mean, I would love to be able to go and upload my GPS with all the trails in the Fairbanks North Star Borough that have been GPSed and waypointed so that you know where you're going. It's just technology catching up with what we've got, really.
The technology part is kind of easier.
Oh, I know.
Well, we were talking about trails in the borough. What about the ones in the state park in the borough?
Nope, that's outside my authority. So even state park land that's within the borough is still state park authority. I mean, just like technically Chena Lake is Corps of Engineers property. We're just there as essentially camp hosts. We manage the property for them, but ultimately it's Corps of Engineers property. It's federal land.
But that way you would count because you have a management agreement on that area.
Right, and the trails that are on Chena Lake are included in that 1,000 as part of our count. And just like the trails that are on the military property adjacent to Birch Hill are included in that 1,000 because, again, we manage those trails. But the ones like off of Chena Hot Springs Road, that Chena Rec area, Chena State Park area there, that's not included in our count. Those are the 1,000 miles of the trails that we actually manage or oversee.
I was in there today, with the Fort Wainwright Recreation People. Boy, that's sure a fuzzy thing.
Oh, it is.
I tell them, I take my bike and ride around the white bear loop, and I go, oh, you're not supposed to do that. That's only one part of the post, but nobody ever stops you.
No, and that's a continuing conversation between the post commander and the mayor's office and the Department of Defense and others because, yeah, technically Fort Wainwright is supposed to be a closed base, but we have a very unique situation where we have this real fuzzy area where you can just go from our property right onto the military property and vice versa. We've not solved the issue because the post commanders, know the difficulties that entails.
I got the impression it was kind of like the old "don't ask, don't tell." Yeah,
that's why I'm being very vague and giving nice generalized answers. Because I certainly don't want to be the person that stirs up that. Because again, we want to be good community partners with our military friends, and but at the same time they have to protect their assets and do the security that's required for them. So it's a good public-private, public-public, private-private, because we also have Nordic Ski Club in that mix as well, partnership.
Can you boat up there? Can you boat up on Fort Wayne right now? I haven't done it in years. We used to do it years ago. We go all, up through Fort Wayne. Right?
You mean on the river?
On the Chena.
Yeah, you can. Last time I did it, they had attempted to put fencing up along both sides where it went through the property. Has anybody floated it lately in the audience? My understanding is they were trying to tear that fencing out because it was just catching wildlife and doing all kinds of ill-conceived things that one who lives in Alaska would say, well, yeah, that's why we don't put fences on the river. But they're figuring it out. But again, that's all military. We have no authority or purview over any of that management. Once it hits our border, then we can control that.
We used to know it was legal.
Oh yeah, no, it is. And again, that falls in it's that same fuzzy area where you're well, technically you're always on federal property when you're on a river because that's Corps of Engineers property. But yes, it gets really sticky when you start getting around there, which is why, as this gentleman pointed out, a lot of times it's just we talk and say yes, we understand that we need to, but try to be good community partners.
That's
with
how we
the
used to
base.
soccer golf balls. We go up there, kids would all jump out and get golf balls off the edge of the riverbank.
Well, now I know.
Where everybody sliced it.
Now I know. Well, we are a few minutes past our time, but I heard that's okay. The discussion can continue. I certainly appreciate your time, everybody. And do we have any other questions on the audience? Anything? You can, if you want to come up and talk to me afterwards, you're more than welcome to come and do so. I don't have to run anywhere. So don't see anybody poking their hands up. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.